Pete Karras. He says he wants to be Wisconsin's next Secretary of State. But what is Pete Karras hiding? For decades, election after election, Pete Karras has never voted for a Democrat for president. And he has never voted for a Republican for president. Pete Karras refuses corporate PAC money. He won't even take it from the PACs that fund both the Democrats and Republicans at the same time. What does Pete Karras have against the way the system works? And on his own campaign website in public, where any Wisconsin voter can read it, the Democratic and Republican parties may argue on TV, but behind the scenes, they protect the same entrenched power structure. Wisconsin, can we really afford a Secretary of State who refuses corporate money, refuses to silence independent voices, and refuses to keep his opinions to himself?
If you've had enough of the two corporate parties, I'm your third option. My name's Pete Karras, and I approve this message.
Hi, everyone. We have my co-host, Phil, I think is trying to log on here, and Michael Harbaugh will be here in just a moment. But we'll just go ahead and start with introductions. It's really great to see both of you again. Both Doug and Pete were part of candidates for Assange sometime mid-year, I believe. We had over 70 candidates standing up for the First and Fourth Amendments, and we're all anti-war, so that's what inspired me to do this and continue with No Peasants. And we've had 2 weeks of really great all libertarian panels, so it's kind of cool to now have Greens. So why don't we'll start with you, Pete.
Certainly. Hey, my name's Pete Karras. I'm running for Secretary of State in Wisconsin. It sounds like a really important position, but in reality, they've stripped almost all the duties from the Secretary of State office, and that goes back decades and decades. So it's more or less a figurehead, an administrative position. I like to say that there's very few duties, so it makes me fully qualified. But I'm a former elected alderman in Racine, a Green Party alderman, served 3 terms back in the 2000s. And I'm just in a position in my life now where I can run for Secretary of State.
Awesome. Okay. And Doug.
Hello, I'm Douglas P. Marsh. I'm a journalist and musician currently living in West Branch, Michigan, and I'm once again the Green Party of Michigan's nominated candidate for U.S. Senate. I was also the U.S. Senate candidate in 2024, and we are working hard to build up the profile of the Green Party of Michigan, and we have currently nominated some, I think, 13 or 14 candidates for office, and we have additional nominating conventions scheduled for July. So we are forming new locals and building up existing locals and really trying to go all out for the Green Party.
That's great. I remember this from before. You don't have a huge, you've got a website and all, but you don't have a huge like social media presence. And I was just talking to Pete before you came on that, I've just really lately, I mean, you guys are candidate 38 and 39. We've had a good run of people, but we get views on the clips, but we don't have a lot of people that watch these panels. And I think, like our previous candidate last week said, one of them said, we just still have this myth that we have to deal with the voters that believe that third-party candidates aren't viable. But, really my experience this time around versus candidates for Assange not getting enough, really attention online on you guys, on your campaigns, aside from Instagram for some reason gets a lot of good clips. But I really just feel like more and more it's what you guys are doing on the ground in your communities that makes more of a difference. And I know like Gen Z lives online, but maybe we could start with that. Talk a little bit about like what you're hearing, in your communities, and I think that's going to go a lot further than tweets and all of that. So, either one of you want to jump in? I guess maybe Doug, since you're not on social media quite like Pete and I are. So
I mean, I would say I was professionally obligated to be on Facebook for a time when I was editing 3 newspapers, and all the time that I spent on it felt really gross, really icky, and felt like it was damaging to my mental health. So as soon as I separated from that employer and was no longer professionally obligated to spend time on Facebook, I deleted my account, and I'm not currently spending any time on Facebook except to maybe glance at something when a friend shares something that gets posted on that platform. I understand that a lot of people in my community are using the platforms such as Facebook. It is the platform that the county sheriff in my area uses to broadcast information to the community. Facebook Marketplace is very popular. But yeah, I don't really find it necessary for real community building. So just to kind of scan through my latest report to our state party, since our May meeting, we held a Dine and Discuss event May 31st, where we invite activists from all different kinds of organizations, indivisibles, and we even do joint actions with Democrats or Republicans, just if they're interested in community grassroots organizing. And joined one of our members, Craig Roustone, at his farm south of Clare in Isabella County, where I facilitated a discussion with a member that we have in Flint, Michigan, who's a farm manager. He's rehabilitating 16 hoop houses in inner city Flint, which is economically still devastated from the exit of the auto industry and the abandonment of the town.
Do they have clean water yet? Kind of?
Not everyone.
Wow.
Yeah, they're still dealing with lead contamination in a lot of the water lines.
Wow.
So there's continuing kind of social justice work be done in Flint, and we're really happy to have Kwabena Cubby Necrono, a farm manager for the Asbury Community Development Corporation, working to build a brand new kind of revived inner city Flint chapter that's centered around regenerative agriculture and organic farming that's meant to feed and nourish the community in Flint. So I've been actually
and that's with the Green Party, within the Green Party?
Yeah, he is planning on making a run for the 10th congressional district in Michigan for these midterms, and he's also been on the ground organizing through that farm management initiative that he has agreed to do. He comes from Atlanta, Georgia, most recently, although he was originally born in Boston, Massachusetts. He's a very dynamic, excellent organizer, and we're really happy to have him. So we did a discussion of the Farm Bill on June the 12th, and kind of talking about the Farm Bill and its relation to the Green Party's 10 key values, one of which is, ecology. And so we're really trying to build some concrete policy vision around ecology and regenerative agriculture. to give the Green Party better footing. And so also here in West Branch, that's where I currently live, a couple of our members did participate in a little No Kings demonstration. I have a little skepticism toward No Kings, but I do believe that good people show up to these kind of resistance events, and it's a good opportunity to network and politically organize.
That's very true. I'm sorry, you're breaking up just a little bit. I think that's very true, and I don't know if you picked up on, I called this No Peasants, our group, as kind of a play off of that, because I felt very much, I remember Margaret Kimberly wrote an article about No Kings, and that basically it was a Democrat get out the vote operation, which it is. But then I saw some people with the Arizona Green Party, and they were like, but we're out there at the No Kings rallies with our, end the genocide in Gaza signs. And I thought that's really great and that's smart to do, because there are a lot of good people I know that go there, and they mean, but I also have heard that, like, in one instance, like Code Pink got thrown out of one of the, so there's some animosity.
Yeah, here in Dayton also, they wouldn't let any speakers early on for Palestine, and they were very, some of the local activists around here, they're a little bit too risque, or they definitely gatekeep. Sorry,
yeah, I thought No Kings was kind of just yes, Democrats, but Democrats are too unpopular at this time to come out full-throated in support of. So I predicted that No Kings would gradually transform into yes Democrats as the midterms approach.
Yeah. Well, we can we'll jump to one of the things on the pledge, I guess, that, you mentioned, environment and farming and all. It's really interesting now to me that we talked about it with the Libertarian panel 2 weeks ago, that issue, like just eating healthy food and all of that, has like flip-flopped over to more on the right, I guess, with the Maha movement and all of that. But it's interesting how that has occurred. But the reason I put the environmental issues on the pledge the way that I did was it was really about like what's in your own backyard, because I find that that's really where people will start to diverge, and if it's saving the planet, it gets this bad vibe on more on the right. And I thought, well, but when you're talking to people like about Flint, or there was a place in Louisiana where we had a couple of candidates years ago, and they called it Cancer Alley. So whenever there's something that's like pollution and affecting right in your community, it's easier to drop that partisanship, I think. But yeah, Pete, do you want to touch on that at all? Oh, I'm sorry, Doug. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I can find things to connect with on the Maha movement, but the most concrete action I've seen from them recently is that they're going to get certain dyes taken out of M&Ms. So I don't, as far as their priorities and the work that they're really doing, I don't think that it's fully genuine. And for the environment, I think the issue that is, I'm overhearing it every public place that I go, is data centers and the AI infrastructure, where they're just steamrolling local municipalities with giant law firms and suing small townships that try to resist. And so that's a big environmental issue that we're dealing with in these midterms.
Yeah, Michael can speak on that, but just real quick about the Maha. I mean, again, it's like No Kings. I think if you just pay attention to the people that are drawn to those issues instead of the organization, then you can sort of, I don't know, you can reach more people that way. But yeah, I think I've got a clip of Michael talking about the data centers there in Ohio, and what's the latest on what you're doing with that, Michael?
They are gathering signatures. They need 400,000. So by like early July. So, it's a big volunteer grassroots effort. They're not going to hit that. I think they're going to get like 50 or 60,000, maybe 70,000. But as with any movement that's grassroots and volunteer, you kind of have to start somewhere. And so what the organizers are saying, it's like, we are in this right now. We're getting an infrastructure, but they're not going to hit the threshold this year. To get 400,000 signatures, that requires some money and a lot of infrastructure. So they've it's all about next year. It's all about next year and like putting this back on the ballot and just to keep it moving forward. So they've gotten a lot of exposure. One of the candidates running for governor here against Vivek Ramaswamy here in Ohio on the Republican side, he ran on banning the data centers, and he was a Republican kind of MAGA guy, but he ran on banning data centers. And so he picked up on it. He got crushed in the Republican primary, like 80% to 20%. It was really disheartening. I was really hoping he would do a lot better. I'm not a Republican, but I told everybody I knew that was a Republican, like, hey, go out and vote for that guy, because he was at least, on the right side of a few things. He was also against all the flock cameras, and so he was kind of saying, oh, it's a civil liberties thing and big government, and so. So finding these, and that's what this No Peasants is all about, is finding these overlaying political issues between the right and the left. And so, yeah, he was hitting on a few things that caught my eye. But anyway, he got his butt kicked. But so anyway, yeah, the data centers, it's on to the next year, and just putting the infrastructure in place right now, getting exposure. I met a lot of people that were just like, oh, it's a progress. It's progress. Like, they're not sure about, jobs. And it's like, well, for one of these huge data centers, there's jobs on the construction, yes. But once it's built, you got about 50 people, and a lot of those are tech workers that are not from there. You're not having any of these long-standing jobs, but what you're going to have is a long-standing energy drain, a long-standing pollution problem, a long-standing, like, not in my backyard problem.
Yeah, Pete, do you have them there? You must.
We do. In fact, our legislature, in a bipartisan way last year, passed a bill that gave data centers a tax exempt status for their purchases, sales tax, which, you say, okay, 5-6% sales tax, but it turns into billions of dollars that we're subsidizing. And they also made it easier for the data centers to be included in TIF and TID districts, so that it directly affects people's property taxes. And, the governor, we have a Republican assembly, state house, and Senate. But we have a governor who's a Democrat, and he has line item veto. In fact, they call it the Vanna White veto, where he can just take letters out. It's very, very powerful. Wow. He chose not to veto this. So the Democrats and Republicans are complicit in this and so many issues. That's kind of what my campaign's about, because there aren't a whole lot of duties with the Secretary of State. I'm running saying, this is a race where people can feel safe voting for a third-party candidate, because the Republicans and the Democrats have failed us on so many levels.
Absolutely.
And Kelly, you asked before what the word on the street was. As we were gathering nomination papers, and I talked to other people, and I've been out there for the last 3 months, shaking hands. The one thing 90% of the people agree on is that the two parties suck. Democrats don't like the Democrats. Republicans don't like the Republicans. But the Democrats are so fearful of Trump and his whole thing, and the Republicans are so fearful of what they define as socialism. And I think they have this picture of the Soviet Union in their head, when they talk about socialism. But they're voting against things instead of for things. It's really an interesting dynamic, but people don't like that. And maybe if we can build third parties with a strong showing, maybe in this race, because I not only have the Green Party endorsement, I also have the endorsement of the Pirate Party. Nice. They're the ones who came out of the copyright law that came out of Napster.
Oh, okay.
The Transhumanist Party is endorsing me. I have an interview tomorrow, and I'm confident we'll get the Independence Party endorsing me. And we're also working on a couple others, which I probably should not mention until we actually get them. But what they all see, the reason they're supporting me, though we may differ on other views, is that the duopoly, the two-party system, has to be broken if we're
Mhm.
ever to move forward on any issue anybody cares about.
Right.
That's
Right.
right. That's right. We just one last thing is like I was feeling so in my feelings about Vivek Ramaswamy here in Ohio, and just he's everything that billionaire, Trump guy. He got his money off of predatory healthcare practices and stuff like that, starting a medical startup that had junk science behind it. Like he's just everything that, and he's bad, and he's just coming in like, oh hey, I'm gonna be governor, and I was really in my feelings, and I was like, you know what? Because I always vote third party. I was telling a friend of mine, I was like, I might vote for the Democrat. I just might, just to stop Ramaswamy, just because he's so much of a threat. But then after I let that sink in a little bit, I'm like, well, what's the Democrat? They're just saying, well, we want to do AI responsibly. We want
Do
to
you know?
just put versus, and versus Vivek's like, oh, I want to like transform, like he just wants to bring him in. And so anyway, I was like, the Democrats aren't standing up against it either. So
Yeah, Michael, you can look up the clip. Very recently, in the past 2 weeks or so, Governor Whitmer from Michigan did an appearance right beside Sam Altman with the shovels, breaking ground on the data center that the locality had voted 70%. It was at least 70% of the locality voted to block this data center. Oracle, Sam Altman's outfit, whoever it was, sued them and got the township leadership to fold. And then here was Sam Altman side by side with Governor Gretchen Whitmer, the Democrats' next great hope for female presidential candidate, standing next to him breaking ground. So yeah.
That's awful. That's awful. That's status quo right there. But and so yeah, so they're using the law to just steamroll, and it's kind of wild. That is so. If you can't even have the law on your side, and just to say, hey, no, but they say, oh, the law, you can't discriminate against us building this facility. It's like, whoa, we are in a whole new. But I will give one thing of hope, though. You know what? If we constructed them, we can tear them down. And I'm just saying, we can. For example, there was a constitutional amendment that they're gathering signatures for right now. It's to ban them. It's to ban the large scale ones. Keep the small scale ones, but to ban these large scale ones. And I'm just saying, constitutional amendments,
one in
new change in
Utah?
politics. We can tear them down.
Yeah, that one in Utah that was like, I don't know, as big as the whole state.
Kevin O'Leary,
Oh, right. Ugh.
Shark Tank guy.
Yeah.
Oh, and Pete, I wanted to say I was excited to hear about your endorsement from the Pirate Party. For all of the community organizers in the audience, I've been using for the past 8 months or so the Pirate Party's organizing model.
Oh, cool.
So they base it on kind of small cells of 6 or 7 organizers that form the basis of a node, and it's a really effective organizing model, I've found, and I've been trying to encourage other community organizers to try it out.
Okay.
I'm embarrassed to say I don't think I know who the pirate.
Yeah, I'd like to hear more about that.
I could introduce you to have somebody come on. They're great people.
It'd be great. I feel like I've seen the name, but I don't know how I don't know about this.
I think it was in Sweden. Mm-hmm. One of those Scandinavian countries where they grew from a movement of just a few hundred people to tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands in a matter of months. And it was because of like a few really solid basic principles of liberty and autonomy, and then this really smart organizing model that scaled very rapidly.
So it would be something that libertarian candidates would also be interested in, I would think.
I think so.
Yeah. And see, this is what I would love to see is this, when I was saying doing more on the ground and forgetting about the media sometimes, is that, wouldn't it be great if there's a stealth, like you guys come in and just blow the election away? Like, do you have to, we know the polling isn't accurate, but if you just had people in the community, if you could break through this belief that you can't win. There's this great cartoon, Michael, the one I'm talking about, where people say we didn't vote because it didn't matter, and it's like, it's 2/3 of the people. So it's possible. It's just how do we work on that messaging to get people to believe?
Well, that's my whole campaign's message. I mean, we're running. You saw the one commercial we're running,
Hmm.
and we're also running one, about the Karras files, and you know, the Republicans and Democrats. We didn't ask for permission, and how are we going to deal with Pete? Exclude from debates, and
Uh-huh. Oh, that's great.
but we're developing one on electile dysfunction.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
And fortunately, we're starting to raise enough money, I think, where we can run statewide streaming commercials with these.
Oh,
And
great, great.
people in Wisconsin know that the Secretary of State and the state treasurer both have very few duties. And historically, they'll poll for 4 or 5% to independent and third party candidates.
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to seize upon that and really make the point. And if we can if we can win the seat, that would be amazing. But if we can grab 20% of the vote, and I think that's in reach if we reach our fundraising goals,
Mm-hmm.
that can shake the system up and hopefully will allow more third-party candidates to run and be on the ballot, and then allow the voters to have more choices at the polls and feel safer voting for third-party candidates.
Yeah.
Not just Green Party.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have to build a movement of most third parties.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, I mean, I'm amazed at, typically right, Michael, we have a mixture. We don't have just libertarians and then Greens. We try to bring people on together so
Right.
that they can, sometimes it's a little bit, not contentious, but typically they do find the areas to agree on. It's until we get into healthcare, that's sometimes.
Yeah.
But okay, so I've heard a lot of libertarians, and I said this to them last week, now that they would rather, instead of spending on bombs, they would rather fund, universal health care. So, it's give and take a little bit. But speaking of that, why don't we go into a little bit, I know you both are anti-war. Do you want to say we'll start with you, Pete. Do you want to say anything about your stance on wars?
I am anti-war. I think it's ridiculous what we're doing. I also think that the way we sell this to the population, to the guy on the corner, is through, unfortunately, I look at what's happening in Gaza and Iran, Ukraine, and Sudan, and, all over the world. And I look and I have a lot of empathy for the people who are, not to the country necessarily, but just to the people who are harmed about this, harmed through these endless wars. And sometimes there aren't wars, it's just sanctions. But I found that a lot of people don't have that level of empathy, or at least maybe they do for their family or their friends, but not for strangers they don't know, for other members of humanity who, on the other side of the world. So I think the way we sell this to a lot of people is, look at all the money we're pissing away. I mean, look at the money we've given Ukraine. And this is not just Trump and the Republicans. This is, the Democrats are just as complicit at this. The old thing about that's said quite often is it took 4 presidents, 20 years, and a couple $1 trillion to replace the Taliban with the Taliban. It doesn't get us anywhere. And what could we do with that money? For one thing, we could not have a $38 or $39 trillion debt, which is going to force the destruction of the dollar eventually. But we could solve homelessness. We could offer universal health care if that's what we choose to do. But instead, we're building bombs and we're dropping them on other people, and we have 800 military bases around the world. I mean, 800. How are they sitting on top of each other? I mean, it's just ridiculous. And I think that the money we spent resonates with a lot of, would resonate with a lot of people. So I think that's one way that we third-party anti-war folks could message this better to the general population.
Right. Yeah. Doug, you want to jump in
I've
here?
been saying, just real quick, I was going to say, something I've been saying is, like, if we would have taken a hard line or a hard stand as like lefty voters, during Obama.
Mm-hmm.
We could have prevented Gaza. We could have prevented the Ukraine war. We could have prevented Lebanon. So people got like this has been going on for a long time. We didn't draw a hard line in 2010 after Obama got in and went back on his promises, or 2012 reelected him. 2014 midterms, I'm not sure, but you know what I mean. And then Hillary Clinton came this close to winning in 2016. So I let people know, like, hey, there is hope for the future if you draw a hard line now. I mean, Iraq and Afghanistan was bad, but God, what they're doing in Gaza and Ukraine and Lebanon's, I think, worse. And so, we'll see. I'm not sure, but you know what I mean? Like giving people hope, like, hey, if we take a hard line, we can prevent a catastrophe in the future, because these Epstein files people and satanic people, or whatever you want to call it, like these evil people have got something in store for us. So we've got to start drawing a hard line on them.
You know what makes that really tough, though, is especially to Democrats, is remember when Gaza, the whole Gaza thing started, the Democrats, it was Biden, of course, driving this, and the Democrats were like, oh, Israel has the right to defend itself and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
We have to do this. We need the place in the Middle East. And then as soon as Biden wasn't president anymore, so how many changed their views? It was all through, a partisan prism.
Yeah. I was sick. I was sick to see the amount of people out for no kings, but all the Gaza protests in my area locally the last year and a half didn't see any of these people. Yeah. And I'm just saying, It just shows you. It just shows you what's important and like where people are at. And a lot of the Democratic organizers around here too. I'm like, yeah, they were never around. It's a team story. Joe Biden's doing it. So anyways, sorry.
Right. I was at an event for local Palestinian people here in Raleigh, North Carolina. And this woman, there was a whole room full of people that raised their hands when someone asked, have you lost loved one, family in Gaza? And anyway, this woman came up to me afterwards, and she'd lost family there. And she said, I wouldn't vote for Trump, but I almost hope he wins, because we already know what we're getting with Harris. And I think a lot of Democrats can't accept that. But it's like, even though, obviously Trump is no better, or is maybe worse, but at the time when you voted in November 2024, if you voted for the Democrat, you voted for genocide. And people don't like it when I say that, but that's the truth. And the other option, I think you should just vote third party, but it's amazing to me the mental gymnastics that Democrats will do to justify that vote. And even still now, we saw recently the DNC, whatever autopsy, they just completely didn't even mention Gaza. So this level of denial is so weird to me. It's like, the question, what would you have done during the Holocaust? Well, unfortunately, we're seeing it, right? But Doug, I'll hand it to you.
Sure. Ending material support for the conflict in Gaza was one of my 2024 campaign planks, and unfortunately it remains one of my campaign planks, firmly against the genocide and apartheid conditions the Israelis are imposing on the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. And I've been working this week on a piece that I hope is going to be published in Jacobin magazine about Israel's assault, specifically the targeting of journalists in Lebanon, and these have been acknowledged, and medics too. Yeah, these have been acknowledged as violations of international law, as obvious war crimes, and of course, Israel and the United States veto power in the UN makes this very difficult to pursue and prosecute. But I think we just need to be steadfast about these issues. And then I think Pete's comment is smart too. We should emphasize the economic costs of these policies and these wars of aggression, and the material support for more and more conflict around the world. It's making a lot of money for investors in Raytheon and the other weapons manufacturing companies. Meanwhile, it's reaping death and destruction around the world. And as much as it's illegal in some states to engage in boycott, divestment, sanction organizing against Israel, we should recall that the United States is very much engaging in boycott, divestment, and sanctions against the nation of Cuba. And that was one thing that Obama promised to end, that he didn't, and that is now being intensified. Guantanamo Bay, Obama promised to close that. He didn't. Now Guantanamo Bay is, increasing its strategic operations. And so, yeah, I think we really just have to be very clear-headed about some of these positions, clear-headed, steadfast, and understand that we need to build an alternative buy-in for the working class, because the duopoly has left behind regular people. They don't listen to regular people. They don't look out for regular people's interests. To the extent that a few of them pay lip service to regular people and our interests, they are not serious about changing the conditions that lead to the machine functioning the way that it does.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, Pete, do you want to talk a little bit about what happened recently? You had another battle getting on the ballot, right?
We tend to have a lot of battles in the state of Wisconsin over ballot access.
It's everywhere, though.
Yeah, it is everywhere. It is. Here in 2020, they succeeded in, the Democrats basically come after the Green Party, filed suit and got Howie Hawkins, our presidential candidate, thrown off the ballot because the vice presidential candidate moved halfway through the nomination collection period, and some of the addresses were not changed compared to the dates that were taken, and they won that. In 2024, they tried getting Jill Stein thrown off the ballot, and they did not succeed. Fortunately, we were able to show them that under the technicality that they challenged under, that if they threw us off the ballot, the Constitution Party and the Libertarian Party candidates would also have to be thrown off the ballot. So the Democrats and the nonpartisan Democrats on the Supreme Court decided maybe that wasn't such a good idea.
Right.
Yeah, it would be a negative.
They threw Jill Stein off the ballot in Ohio in 2024.
Right.
Also.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that was a ridiculous story too, that came out of there. And Bush just did it. I mean, it's all over the place. With my candidacy, so if I'm running, one of the reasons I'm running is because it will give the Green Party major ballot status, and or minor party status, I should say, which means we do not have to collect signatures, and we get automatic placement of a presidential candidate in 2028. So the Democrats came after me, number one, because they didn't, they knew, or they thought that I was going to steal the votes that they own. And
love that.
Throw the election, spoil it, but also because if I was off the ballot, it would eliminate the automatic ballot status in 2028 for our presidential candidate. So they came up with things like some of the fine print on the nomination form was somewhat faded, and the person signing the papers could not read it. They came up with that. They also came up with Wisconsin recently passed a law that said that you can't use out-of-state circulators. And they did this like 2 weeks before the nomination paper collection process started. So there was some question about they redid the form. Just to mention that, we used the old form, which was on every website in the state except for the Wisconsin Election Commissions. They posted it November 8th or 9th, and nomination papers collection started April 15th. They said that since we used the wrong form and it didn't say you were from out of state, that they challenged all of our 2,900 signatures. Of course, right on the bottom of that form, the circulator needs to put their address, and they were all Wisconsin addresses. So we made we hired an attorney, and he did an amazing job putting to just embarrassing the Democrats. And the Democrats, right before the meeting, where this was going to, before the Wisconsin Election Commission meeting, withdrew their challenge. So we were able to survive it. We are left with a $13,000 legal bill. And, that's another thing the Democrats do. They try eating up our resources. By the way, we need help with that. PeteKarras.com. A little fundraising pitch here. We've raised a couple $1,000s towards it, and actually 3,000 or 4,000, and we're trying to pay that off. But it's just ridiculous. The Democrats, and I can speak for Wisconsin, even though I know it happens everywhere, are trying to eliminate the Green Party. Not only through ballot access, but there's a lawsuit now that's trying to allow fusion voting, which will be very harmful to third parties. Also, there's a bill out for like the top 5. They do whatever they can to eliminate us because we scare the hell out of them.
Yeah, I mean, I think, election integrity and security is on the ballot, or excuse me, on the pledge. But I think we've spent more time talking about that recently, specifically, the ballot access stuff, because, I mean, maybe it's not exciting for viewers, but I think the public needs to know about this because the candidate we had last week, Lana LaGuia, she's a libertarian in New Jersey. She's dealing with the same thing, legal battles, and it was the Republican Party, that's going against her because they don't want her on the ballot. So, but I think if the public understood exactly also how hard they try to keep you guys off the ballot, yet they at the same time are always saying you can't win. Well, if they weren't so worried about that, why would they be trying so hard and spending so much money? And I want to play this clip, if you guys don't mind. I don't want to take up too much time, but this is so pertinent. And I think I know I at least put a photo of Mark Elias in your clip that I made for you, Pete, during 2024, because of that was happening. And this is about Matt Ho's race here in North Carolina. But it drives me nuts because I see there's this Democracy Docket is a media outlet that Mark Elias started, and they're just raging hypocrites because they're constantly talking about, the Republicans do this or that when they play really, really dirty. And so this was what happened here.
Be a huge disadvantage to Democrats and it would be an advantage to Republicans. So we're asking people if they're interested in removing their name from the petition.
Okay, so you're from
North Carolina Democrats.
You're from North Carolina Democrats, correct? Yeah. And you used the public information based on the petition that I signed, correct? For getting the Green Party candidate onto the ballot, correct?
Well, that's the petition that you signed.
Correct. Yeah. I'm fully aware of that.
Yeah, so we're just asking people if they were interested in removing their name from the petition. Like, some people signed it and didn't know they were being misled. Some people didn't even sign it, but their signature was on there. So that they're investigating that too.
Yeah, I get it. You have to audit the petition, correct? Yeah?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure how that works. Like, they just contracted me to go around and ask people. Okay.
About if I wanted to take my name off of the list?
Correct.
And that's because, like, I'm not following. I mean, I signed it because I wanted the Green Party to be on the ballot?
Right. So we're letting people know that it would be a disadvantage for Democrats and an advantage for Republicans.
Right. You guys should move further left, and then that wouldn't happen.
Okay.
So yeah, so it's like I want a third party
Right.
on the ballot. I want ranked choice voting so we have a viable third party candidate.
Of course.
And if the Democrats are concerned about that, then they should probably change their politics a bit, as opposed to coming to my house and trying to get me to get my name off a petition.
Right.
So, I mean, this is a lot. I mean, I knew you guys were coming because other people that I know have signed that petition have said they're coming for you. So this tactic, I don't agree with it. I understand why you're doing it. Politically, I understand why you're doing it. It's dirty pool. I don't like it. But honestly, it's, and I understand legally you can do this. But from a political standpoint, I don't agree with it.
Okay.
And I understand I can remove my name from that list, but I don't choose to.
Okay, and that's completely fine.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's completely fine.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, well, I appreciate your time.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm sorry to bother you.
You're very welcome. Have a great day.
Isn't
Well
that
played,
great
sir.
that it's completely
Well played.
fine? Isn't it great that it's completely fine with her? I'm like, if she had shown up at my house, I'd been like, but anyway, I share this a lot because it is just disgusting. And that was Mark Elias behind this Democracy Docket. Remember that. If you ever see anything from that media outlet. And it involved an intern at the Democrat governor's office. And they were calling people, harassing them, lying and saying they were with the Green Party. I mean, it's really dirty. And I've heard other stories, other places. I can't confirm that that's that law firm behind that. But anyway, that's what they do. And it's just, I think we have to expose it. So I don't remember. Michael, had I played that before when you were on? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you have, and every time I see it, I'm like, well, that little contractor girl, she's very polite. She's just working a job or whatever, and she's like, yeah, I don't care what you want to do, essentially, but she's like, I'm just letting you know. But yes, exactly, it's not her behind it. She's the contractor or whatever, just doing a job.
Yeah.
But it's like, like the mission at hand is like dirty politics as heck, and the Green and the Democratic Party is up to no good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was the right response. Don't blame the messenger, and people got jobs to do, and I've done jobs that I don't agree with politically, or I shoveled coal on the last coal-fired steamship in North America. So
nice.
Sometimes
That's not
we do.
as bad as working for Mark Elias. I mean, come on. No.
I don't know. Sometimes we do things that aren't the greenest because it's a job and a paycheck. So I think that's a good read on the situation. And the guy in the video handled it well. He was also polite and just communicated to the messenger something to feed back to Mark Elias and his outfit.
Right.
Doug, you could be shoveling something else, and then you'd be a Republican or a Democrat.
See, Greens are so nice and polite. And I have voted Green a lot, but I'm not as nice and polite. I wouldn't have been. It infuriates. You're right, Doug. That's a better way to deal with it. It's not, and I don't know what she actually
He's doing a job.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Sure. So I'm sure he handled it better than I would have.
My grandmother used to say, "Kill him with kindness."
Yeah. Unfortunately, though, those machines are taking advantage of that. Those
True.
operations. So
No, that is true. If I guess you could have been really not violent, but like just really mean and cursed her out and made her want to quit her job that day, and then it would have maybe had an effect, on the the organization behind hiring her, and then maybe you could make your impact on the world that way. But yeah, I personally probably wouldn't, do that to that little.
I think
that sweet person there at my door.
Not to the field organizer. I'd ask her to hook me up with her manager, and then save my ire.
Somebody in the office, ream somebody out in the office, or you're higher up. Yes, exactly.
Save my ire for them. Yeah, indeed.
That's right.
I think the genocide in Gaza made me a little bit less nice about those kinds of things, you know. So with politeness, yeah, I used to be a little bit more that way. I mean, I voted for Obama twice, so I'm guilty. But let's see, what else on the pledge you guys saw that you particularly want to talk about? We've got, you know, free speech and the surveillance state. Just before we've only got a few minutes. I do want to share this election stuff that I found. I wonder if I should play. Wait, did you see this last week, Michael? I don't remember the thing about
See what?
in PBS the article that was quoting an Israeli cybersecurity company. Well, you know what? I'll leave that for the very end. Why don't we? I'll give you guys each the last word and tell people where they can find you, and maybe I'll just do a share screen in a minute and show you guys because I want people to be aware of this. I've been trying to get people talking about it, and even though Israel's influence on the military and everything else is top of the news cycle, I guess it's because it's related to election integrity. People don't want to touch it. Maybe that's it. But anyway, okay. So, Doug, you want to go first?
Sure. I do join the pledge for nopeasants.org. I will never take any APAC foreign policy or APAC APAC foreign policy points or APAC funding. I believe in freedom of speech and upholding the First Amendment. I think we should end the illegal surveillance state and basically expropriate Palantir. I do agree with demilitarizing the police and ending the 1033 program. I think we should also take a hard look at the 287G program, which links up ICE with local law enforcement agencies. Watch out for that coming to your state.
Is that new? Maybe I'll add that on.
The 287G, I can send. I did some research and wrote some articles for some independent media in Michigan about the 287G task force program. It establishes memoranda of agreements between ICE and local law enforcement agencies, so that local law enforcement agencies are basically have some of their agents deputized and authorized to do immigration enforcement.
Okay. I could put, if you like, I could even put that article up on the website. I would love to put something about that because I wasn't aware of that. Okay.
We just had a massive controversy here in Dayton, Ohio, with the flock cameras, which are the government cameras and stuff like that. And the city commissioners, they weren't supposed to share that data and that video surveillance with outside agencies. And then they so we got these cameras up. They dragged their feet, and they finally did their audit. And guess what? ICE was getting access to the flock cameras against what they're supposed to be. So now they are covered up and are in the process of being taken down here in Dayton, Ohio. But they're covered up right now. We haven't got them dismantled yet. But anyway, that was a big controversy. Yes. So you get them up, but then it's like, who else is tapping in to this?
So that program could maybe then come to other states, and is that what you were saying, Doug?
Oh, the 287G program, Florida and Texas have mandated all of their law enforcement agencies to enter these agreements. And for the rest of the states, they're doing copycat legislation. In Michigan, there's only about 7 agencies that have entered these agreements, but it's spreading, and it shows no sign of slowing. So if you agree with, liberty and freedom, and you don't want the merging of all these law enforcement agencies and the militarization of all these law enforcement agencies, get on side with No Peasants. It's an independent movement that values liberty and freedom. It's the Green Party, it's the Libertarian Party, and it's all independent-minded people. So running the rest of the way down the list, we've been talking a lot in this discussion about electoral reform. We need a lot of that, a lot more of that. Transparency in the judicial system, love it. And environmental issues, I'm here from the Green Party. We're big into, if you like, call it conservation. If you don't like environmentalism, call it conservation, because the data centers are coming for your drinking water, and they're spraying glyphosates, which are carcinogens, all over the burn scars in California. These things are important. We gotta watch out, and we need healthcare reform, because if they spray all of our national forests with glyphosates, we're going to need a lot more visits to the doctor. So I fully support and pledge for no peasants.
Cool, thank you. Okay, Pete, you want to take anything we didn't cover on there that you particularly want to address?
Actually, I agree with Doug on every point, and it really, just going down that list, it points out how much work we have to do. And I truly believe, and kind of what I'm advocating for my campaign is, we can't trust the Republicans or Democrats to do any of it, because even if we agree with their rhetoric, they never actually put anything into law. And they hold out this hope, this put themselves on this high pedestal, but when it comes time to action, it just doesn't happen. I guess the one thing I'd like to touch on is electoral reform and election integrity. Kelly, we were talking a little earlier.
Yeah.
I was involved in the 2016 Jill Stein recount. The recounts in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. And Wisconsin was the only state where we did the full recount. We recounted the state. Half of the state, pretty much outside of Milwaukee, Madison, and Waukesha, did hand recounts. And the other half, of course, just ran it through the same machines that may have miscounted them before. Right. But in that half of the state, we found 17,800 errors. 17,800. And if we did the whole state, I'm sure we would have found 35,000 errors. I mean, and out of 2.6 million or 2.7 million votes, that's very substantial. And when you have a close election, that can make a difference. And the election, when we worked on that, all these election integrity people from around the country came in, and they were really helpful. And I learned so much. They say that voting machines are not connected to the internet and it can't be tampered with. Well, that's a crock of shit.
I've seen it myself.
Yes, exactly. Wisconsin is very decentralized for elections, the most decentralized state, where you actually have municipal clerks running their own elections and they're reporting to their counties. And there's, a couple thousand municipalities. Some of them have very few people. And, when they get that memory stick in to update their voting machines, they have no idea if that's legit or it has some type of code on it. And they plug it in and it happens. And, unfortunately, when the whole stealing the 2020 election came up, all the election people, integrity people I knew, kind of went hiding. Yep. They just went into hiding, and they had done so much work for so long and come so far, but then they were afraid to be associated with Donald Trump and the stolen election thing. So I do think that it's possible to steal an election. I'm not saying any elections were stolen, but I'm saying it's possible, and we really have to work in a nonpartisan way to prevent that from happening in the future. I mean, there are issues like, I don't want to get too into weeds, but fractional voting. There's modems in these machines. I mean, and in Wisconsin, the Jill Stein campaign, we sued. We had some money left over, and we sued to get the voting machine manufacturers to release their code. Under Wisconsin state statutes, they were supposed to make that public. And that's never happened. I mean, that's how we won the lawsuit, and it's never happened. That's the walls that are up. And it could be someone in some political party or evildoers in the United States doing it, or it could be a foreign country that does this. and we really have to start paying attention and start working for what's good and not what helps the candidate we're supporting.
You need to vote for Pete for Secretary of State because he'll do something about it.
There you go.
That was perfect. I mean, you said it. I can't say it any
Right.
better. It flipped like that, and then a lot of people, a lot of the Democrat or progressive, I'll say, or green, independent left candidates we've had on, especially the younger ones, they really don't want to talk about any of it, and they're not familiar with it. They may know a little bit about the gerrymandering. Doug, I remember the panel that you were on for Candidates for Assange. We did talk about elections, but I think it's something that is uncomfortable for people on the left, and we have to change that, because the bottom line is, and if you're watching this and you have any interest in this at all, we have meetings every Wednesday at 8 and that I run, and we have cybersecurity experts, a friend of mine who he's retired now, but don't hold it against him. He worked for Oracle. But for 20 plus years, he's really my IT security guru. We have data analysts that come and we go over information. And it's just really important that we make this not partisan, because the fact is we have black box voting. And I'm really glad you put it the way you did, Pete, because it's not saying that an election is stolen to say we don't have the transparency and we don't know. And you mentioned the fractional voting. I was wondering if you were thinking about Benny Smith, who found this program or created this program, and it revealed the fractional voting. Is that who you were referring to?
Yeah, exactly. I didn't remember the name, but that's exactly the one.
Yeah, if you look up Benny Smith, Bloomberg, I think there was a big article in it about it. But
I do recall 2024 these discussions, and I'll say my position hasn't changed greatly. I do believe that election integrity is a major issue. I also think that there have been some opportunists who have weaponized it. So for instance, back then we had the issue of I'm sorry, there's the train that goes right by my house is going by now. But so in 2024, we had the big, the election was stolen conspiracy, and we had private planes that were flying into little tiny Antrim County where I went to high school. And so there was like this big push to weaponize the uncertainty around these election systems in favor of Donald Trump and the Stop the Steal movement, which was largely not supported by good evidence or experts. It was, cooked up in some billionaire's parlor. And so more recently, again, in little tiny Antrim County, we have a big controversy right now where this right-wing radio personality named Trucker Randy, his wife, Victoria Bishop, was elected to the Antrim County clerk position and has just been engaged for months now in this great big fight with the state of Michigan for removing people from the voter rolls illegitimately. Election integrity continues to be a major issue of concern, and I think we just have to be careful, like in working to reform it. We shouldn't empower and enable opportunists who are going to use the issue to advance voter suppression agendas.
Yeah, well, what we always say is, if you don't want that to happen, then we need to have that transparency so people can't make stuff up, right? And I apologize. I do this every single time. There are two election experts. It's the one someone will tell me in the chat, I hope. The Antrim County, Michigan thing was actually I think you remember that from when we talked about it. There was something that did happen and it flipped the votes, and they found the reason why it had happened, but that's why. But I can't.
Their early unofficial votes reporting was wildly inaccurate, and
it literally flipped them. So then it was a legitimate, and unfortunately, you have something like that happen, and then it just goes from there. But Well, on that note, I want to share this. I'm sorry, I don't remember. They're like I said, they're two election computer science experts, and I always mix up their names, so I don't want to do that now. But if you look up the Antrim County case, you can see the explanation of what happened. But okay, so before we go, though, I do want to share this with you guys. So we actually discovered this in our meeting almost 3 weeks ago. And I have been really frustrated, I have to say, because I haven't been able to get people's attention on this. Oh, hold on one second. So we were reading a PBS article. Hang on. Sorry, one second. The PBS article, I'll explain this while I'm pulling it up. They were basically saying that this time around, we don't really have any concerns about anything with our actual voting systems, but we're really concerned about influence operations. Now, we did see, all of this AI that happened in like Thomas Massey's race, whatever it was they spent on making fake videos. Okay, I encourage you to go and look at this. I can put the links. I'll put them on YouTube or something here. But it's PBS. And so this is what they're saying here is, don't worry about the actual voting machines or anything, which I found kind of weird anyway, because they're not transparent. So, but anyway, we dig in, and lo and behold, so I'm like, what is this company that they're quoting from? And they're interviewing this guy named Aaron Rose. I'll just call him out by name. And so we went digging, and as it turns out, this company is all Israeli. And I say, like I said last time, I'm not being anti-Semitic here. This is Israeli IDF and Unit 8200 run company. They're talking about influence operations, right? Except this was their brochure, and we were just stunned as we were looking through this, because it's all basically an AI influence operation. It's fear-mongering about Russia, China, and Iran, that they're going to, run an influence campaign on the American public. And I was alarmed because, like I said earlier, everyone's up in arms about this, combining our military with Israeli IDF, and again, money being spent flooding into our elections. But I really would like to know why PBS, why our media is sharing this, which is essentially an influence operation from IDF and Unit 8200. So I've been beating my head against the wall for the last 2 weeks because I've been blasting it everywhere. I called into George Galloway's show. He took my call and was very interested in it. And Afshin Ratanzi, both of them are not in the U.S. Afshin Ratanzi shared it, and whistleblower, former NSA Thomas Drake reposted it. But crickets from everybody else in media. So I don't know what to make of that. I'm not saying anything about the voting machines are going to be rigged or anything like that. I'm just saying I find it weird that PBS is pushing this. It's really strange. Especially, and if you'll see my clip on social media, it's on the Instagram and on X. Joe Kent had said just, I don't know, the week before that, something about being concerned about Israel having unprecedented access to our government and our electoral systems. Those were his words, and nobody has addressed it. I don't know what that means to our electoral systems. What does that mean? So I'm not spreading any conspiracy. I'm just asking for clarification. And I'm concerned about influence operations from our own mainstream media, especially when they're doing that. So that's my spiel on that. But I made a clip on it. You can see it on the No Peasants Instagram. But okay, so wait, did you guys tell? Yeah, you already said where you need help with legal fees, Pete and Doug. Did you say where people can go to your?
My website,
Oh, yeah.
www.petekarras.com.
Oh,
And
we
any
lost them.
donation of any amount would be amazing. Just in case the maximum that someone could donate, and I'm sure we'll have all sorts of people, pissed that this is so low, but is $20,000.
Oh, okay, great.
So I just want to throw that out. But no,
Right.
any donation is would help us with our legal fees and help us
Right.
run streaming TV ads, YouTube ads.
Right.
It'd be
And
great.
you've got some good ads going. I like them.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, stay
Yeah.
tuned. We have more coming out that I'm biased, but they crack me up.
They're funny. That's good.
Yeah.
You need humor. People need humor. Okay, Doug, tell everybody again your website.
Yeah, sorry, I pushed the wrong button and dropped off the call.
Okay,
But
I thought maybe it was what I was saying. I was like,
no, my campaign website is www.electmarsh.org, and you can find more information about my campaign there. And I encourage everybody in Michigan to go to migreenparty.org and join our crew.
and where is some of your journalists? Tell everyone again where you write, where you publish most of your stuff.
Oh, well, I'm currently working freelance. I have pieces in Michigan Advance, Distill Social, and Industrial Worker as a few. And you can follow my blog. I'm at www.wobbly.blog.
Okay, great. And I might put the thing about the 287G task force up on the website. I think people need to know about that. It's like you can't keep up with how many different things they're doing, right? So, okay, Michael, anything? Got anything to end with here, Michael? Oh, he's frozen. Okay, all right. Thanks, everybody. It was great to see both of you again. Okay, and I'll be following your campaigns.
Thanks, Kelly.
Okay, good night.
Night.